The Montana State women remain undefeated in conference play and control their own destiny to a number one seed in Boise. On the men's side, only two wins separate the current third seed from the current eighth seed, which means we are in for a wild finish. Welcome to This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Hello and welcome to This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm your host, Megan Robinson. A few weeks ago, Eastern Washington head coach Dan Monson told me he wasn't focused on winning the regular season. His focus instead was on making sure his players were playing their best basketball come March. Well, as March approaches, the Eagles are currently riding a 4-game win streak, just 2 wins outside that number 3 seed. The Eagles seem to be peaking at the right time. Joining me now to discuss the final 2 weekends of the regular season is Eastern head coach Dan Monson. Coach, the last time we spoke was before your Weber State game. Since then, you've won 4 straight. What has shifted for your team these last few weeks?
Winning breeds winning and confidence. I think we're a little bit more confident, and we've had some games where we were struggling and yet stayed together. I think it stems from Andrew Cook, Mason Williams, and Nick McLean. All of them during this stretch have come off the bench at some point. They're obviously our best 3 players. As far as offensively for sure, and yet I think they've learned that they need each other and they don't need to do everything on their own. And I think that's the balance of that has really helped.
You mentioned Andrew Cook. He had a career night against Weber State. Fast forward to this weekend, he has another career night on Saturday in that win over Idaho State, over Idaho, including hitting the 2 free throws to give you the lead with less than 10 seconds remaining. What has he brought to your program this season?
Well, experience, I mean, he's been down this road. It wasn't Division One, but he was at Carroll College for 3 years and played college basketball. Probably had more minutes of college basketball combined with everybody else on our team. He was a NAIA All-American for a reason. He's a very good player.
One of the things you said to me the last time we spoke was that your focus was having your guys play their best basketball come March. March is just a couple weeks away. How close do you think your team is to playing their highest and best level of basketball?
Uh, I'd say we're at about a 6 or 7. I think we're getting there. I think we're trending and trajecting in the right direction, but I would still bet on Montana or Northern Colorado. As far as the consistency they've had. Hopefully, we've got Northern Colorado on Thursday, and that'll be a good barometer for us on the road. I'm not concerned that we're 1-4 in a row. I'm concerned that we've gotten better 4 games in a row, and I think that's the case. But this weekend will tell a lot.
You mentioned that rematch with Northern Colorado this weekend. Isaiah Hawthorne scored 32 points in your last meeting. How do you slow him down?
Well, we slowed everybody else down. They had their worst shooting night of the Big Sky League this for them against us, and he rose above all that and had a phenomenal game. He's a great player and probably one of the leading candidates for Player of the Year in our league right now with a couple weeks left. We're not worried about Isaiah as much as we are, Northern Colorado. I just think they're best offensive team in the league. They can hurt you in a lot of ways. Like I said, we shut down everybody else, but he beat us almost on his own. And we've got to shut everybody down, and it's at their place where they're more comfortable. So it's a tall task for us.
You said one of the responsibilities as a coach is to put your guys in positions to succeed and help them build their confidence. How would wins over Northern Arizona and Northern Colorado this weekend help build your team's confidence as we approach Boise?
Well, it wouldn't only help confidence, but it would probably eliminate the first round game for us. We could do that and then come home and hold serve on a couple games at home. So we know we've got, that's our main thing, is to win that first game instead of having to win 4. We could put ourselves in a position to win 3 if we close out these 5 games. And we don't have to win them all, but we probably got to win at least 3 or 4 of them. So, that's kind of the task at hand for us.
The Montana State women are the hottest team in Big Sky basketball. Bobcats forward Marah Dykstra joins me next.
I had wandered for thousands of years. I always had to run and hide.
Hey, how's it going?
But I think I found a place I can explore the rest of my days. My first photo,
Another left.
taken in Pocatello, Idaho.
Perfect.
Your footprint is welcome.
Welcome back to This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm Megan Robinson, joined now by Montana State forward Marah Dykstra. Marah, you had a career-high 29 points, including 6 threes in your win over Idaho State over the weekend. What got into you Saturday night?
Well, I think it was just like the threes were open, and obviously I'm not too much of a three-point shooter, but if the shot's there, coaches have instilled some confidence in me to just take those looks. So I was just shot ready and ready when the ball hit my hands.
You said you're not a three-point shooter, yet you hit 6. How does each basket help your confidence grow?
Yeah, obviously, like when you see it go through the hoop once, makes you feel pretty good. I think I hit one that was almost on the logo, and that's got to give you some confidence. But I think just once you get that energy going, and my bench was going crazy too, like just having that energy and support from the team and from our coaches just helped me keep that momentum.
You just used the word bench, and Coach Binford has talked this season about the importance of depth, and the Bobcats have that through your bench. Several of those players who are coming off the bench this season were starters last season. How important is that selflessness to your overall team success?
I think selfless is one of our biggest core values as a program. It's something we really emphasize, and we all know our role, like 1 through 14. We know what we bring to the table, and we all want to be part of a winning team. So we're ready to sacrifice and do whatever it takes to get a win. And if that means you're coming off the bench or if it means you're starting, just being ready to make that impact.
The Bobcats have 17 straight wins, undefeated in Big Sky Conference play. What word would you use to describe this season so far, and why?
I think selfless, connecting back to that, we all just know like our role so perfectly on this team. Just our team is so selfless. Every single person on the team just wants to win so bad. We're all so competitive, and we have a lot of fun doing it. So it's been a great ride so far, but definitely selflessness.
You've talked about selflessness, but what is it about this team on the court that allows you to be so dominant game after game?
I think we're really tenacious with our defense. We have like a great starting 5, but then when we sub in our bench, there's no drop off. We just have intensity on all levels. Everyone wants to go out there and compete hard. So just kind of hitting punch after punch after punch. By the end of the game, we're just hoping we're wearing teams down.
You've been in the game of basketball a long time. How many teams have you been on with a bench as impressive and as deep as the current Bobcats bench?
Never been on one. This is an amazing team to play on. I think any girls come off the bench could be starters on any team in our conference. Just a really competitive group, and just a lot of fun to play with the bench with this much energy and tenacity.
Looking ahead to this week, you host the Grizz on Saturday for part 2 of the Brawl. That first meeting was a close one. You guys won by 1 point. What did you learn from that first game that you hope to improve upon this second time around?
I think defensively, we took a lot of chances, just kind of dialing back on some of those and making sure we're executing on all cylinders, just doing us for the entire 40 minutes.
This rematch with Montana is the first of 4 games left for you guys in the regular season. What will it take to keep this win streak going all the way to Boise?
I think it's just going to take us doing what we do every day, showing up every day, 1-0. That's been our mentality this year. Just 1-0, looking forward to the next day, the next game. Just keep doing our core values because that's gotten us this far, and hopefully we can take it all the way.
Ever wonder how the March Madness brackets are determined? Big Sky Commissioner and NCAA Tournament Selection Committee member Tom Wistrcill shares insight after the break. Welcome back to This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm Megan Robinson, joined by Big Sky Commissioner Tom Wistrcill. Tom, you're not here because you're the Big Sky Commissioner. You're here because you're on the men's basketball committee responsible for selecting those March Madness brackets, third year of a 5-year term. As simply as you can put it, what are your responsibilities as a committee member?
So the responsibility is to choose this year 37 best at-large teams for the NCAA tournament. Not the most deserving teams, but the best teams. And so our committee of 12 evaluates every team in the country. We narrow those down to a group of, I'd say roughly 55 to 60 teams that we consider the at-large candidates. There's 31 AQs that, like the Big Sky Conference champion, gets an automatic qualifier in there. And then the other 37 teams to make up 68 are selected by us. So we use lots of criteria, lots of discussion. We've watched lots of games. That work goes all season long, and then it culminates with our week in Indy before Selection Sunday where we pick the field.
There are a lot of D1 basketball teams. How does the committee ensure that all these potential at-large bids are being considered fairly?
So we have a set of data that we use. We have 7 different sets of data, from net rankings to KenPom, to strength of record, BPI, Torvik, on and on. So there's 7 of those that we evaluate specific teams and the data points. Then we watch a lot of games, and we're looking for who can play well at a level that can help them win games in the NCAA tournament. And so, there's the subjective nature of our viewing, and then there's objective part that we take out of it.
What does that final selection process look like?
I think everybody points to Selection Sunday, right? So around 4 o'clock Mountain, there's a show on CBS. What they forget is the night before. Last year it ended about between 12:30 and 1 in the morning. And that's when we're making the decision of Team A is in and Team B is out. And that's really stressful because we probably started around 7:30 that morning. So as you can tell, we're on, kind of the 18th hour of being in the committee room and talking at this point probably about the same 4, 5, 6 teams for that last spot or two. And by that time, every team has a lot of warts, so you're dealing with teams that have some bad losses, injuries, but we got to pick one of them we feel is most deserving, that has the best chance to get it, that should be in the tournament. It's very stressful because that you are ruining someone's dream in that moment.
You said this committee is made up of people from all over the country in various roles. How do you ensure there's no bias, that Tom is not automatically voting for Big Sky schools to try to get a Big Sky at-large bid?
Yeah, so there's 2 things that happen. One is you can't vote for your team. So when the ballots come up, all the Big Sky teams are gone from my ballot. You can talk about your conference teams, but you can only give facts. So that, number one, is kind of technically how it works. How it works in the room is no one talks about their teams. It is you don't wear anything school or conference related. You don't talk about it. It is 12 people. It's the best committee I've been on, from the fact that people are not in it for themselves. They are in it for the cause, and you can call each other out on things and challenge people. No one would ever do that because it jeopardizes their standing on the committee, and we all take this very seriously.
Tom, Saturday can be an 18-hour day selecting these teams. What is it like for you as a committee member on Selection Sunday as the final bracket is being revealed?
Watching the show is awesome because, first of all, you know what's happening, right? You know where every team's slotted, and I just remember being on campus when our teams were going to be in the NCAA tournament and just feeling that excitement and knowing that's happening around the country and the millions of people that are watching that show. And I had a little part to play in it to try to get to that point, myself and 11 others who worked really hard. It's really gratifying to get to that point. And then it's a 3-week celebration. It's the greatest 3 weeks in sports, and we love being a part of it.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for your insight. I hope this selection process goes as smoothly as possible. We will be back with more This Week in Big Sky Basketball after this.
The secret to happiness is discovering your spot. It could be over the mountain or deep beneath the stream, in a quiet place, in a wild place.
Life is good, life is good.
The question is, where does your spot take you? Pocatello. Life is good here.
Welcome back to This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm Megan Robinson, joined by Colter Nuanez. Colter, there are 2 weekends left of regular season basketball in the Big Sky. However, this is our last show of the regular season, so you're going to predict some all-conference award winners presented by Visit Pocatello. Who are your coaches of the year?
I mean, Trisha Binford right now at Montana State, they're undefeated, so it's hard to say it's not her. But, I mean, Arthur Marrera in his first year at Idaho has been one of the surprises in the league. Gentile Jackson has, I mean, shoot, Weber's won twice as many league games this year as they did all of last year, so that's impressive. Lori Payne has got Northern Arizona at 20 wins plus for the third year in a row, and you know, they're a top 100 team in the net. So I think all those coaches are deserving. But if you run the table in the Big Sky Conference, you got to be the coach of the year. So I think Coach Binford is definitely the choice on the women's side. On the men's side, Travis DeCure at Montana has deserved this award, or at least been a top candidate for the award many times. Probably half of the seasons he's been with the Grizz. He has been the victim of high expectations so often. Like when people expect you to win the league and then you do, they don't think it's as good of a coaching job as if you finish higher than you were predicted. So, and that was the case this year too. I mean, they were picked to win the league, but 9 newcomers, that's the most in the history of Montana basketball and one of the most in the history of the league. So for them to be alone in first place and well out in front of everybody in the entire conference besides Northern Colorado, I'm going with Coach DeCure at Montana.
There are a handful of men's and women's players who have made a case for MVP honors. Who do you think has earned that on both the men's and women's sides?
On the women's side, I'm going with Esmeralda Morales because she's the best player on the best team. I know there's players that are averaging more points. Sophie Glancy has a great case. Taylor Feldman has a great case, both of them at Northern Arizona. But I think Morales has been at her best in the biggest games. I mean, she averaged 28 points per game against Northern Arizona this year. She was the player of the game and had 2 of the plays of the game in Montana State's win over Montana in Missoula, which is probably the win that I don't know about define them, but it's the win that kept them undefeated. Like they got pressed all the way down the wire against the Lady Grizz of Missoula, and Morales was the one that won the game. So I'm going with Morales on the women's side. On the men's side, I'm going with Reynolds because I think he impacts the game as a two-way player more than anybody else in the conference, let alone on his team. I know Dylan Darling is probably the guy that has elevated his team the most at Idaho State, but with them coming off of a pair of losses this last weekend and sitting kind of at 500 in conference play, you got to go with one of those 2 teams that's well out in front, and I'm going with Langston Reynolds from Northern Colorado.
You mentioned Dylan Darling just now. You also mentioned him last week as a person in the MVP conversation. He's also made a case for newcomer of the year. Who are your picks for newcomer of the year in the Big Sky Conference?
Man, I wish you could have a dual newcomer of the year on the men's side because Joe Pridgeon has done so much for Montana. I mean, he's given them the edge that they've lacked the last 5 years. He's unlocked everything Travis DeCure wants. But Dylan Darling is undeniable. And I think if you have to pick one, you got to pick him. I mean, he's averaging like 25 points per game in conference play. And, you know, he's taken Idaho State and put him squarely on his back.
Moving on, we've all heard the saying, defense wins championships. Who are your defensive players of the year?
On the women's side, I think this would be unprecedented, but I think you have to do it. I think it's Taylor Chiric at Montana State. I mean, she's in the top 10 in the country in steals. On the men's side, I'm going to go with Jake O'Neal from Idaho State. He's one of the best shot blockers in the league, one of the best rebounders in the league, and he's doing it at, you know, only about 6'4", 6'5", so he's an undersized big.
Taylor Chiric making her impact felt for the Montana State Bobcats. Obvious freshman of the year candidate. Is she your pick? And if not, who are they?
In terms of my predictions, I always try to say different players for different awards just because I think that's how it always crumbles with the coaches and their voting. So I'm going to say Courtney Grossman is the freshman of the year. If Chiric gets defensive player of the year, I mean, Grossman's been awesome. I covered her in high school, and I expected her to be sort of like a stretch forward, and that's what she's been offensively. But she's the best rebounder in the conference. I did not see that coming. And the way that she's sort of transformed herself physically and become, I mean, seriously one of the strongest players in the league as only a freshman has been really, really impressive.
Last but certainly not least, we have talked about the importance of depth throughout this season, and Montana State has shown a deep bench goes a long way. Who are you taking for your reserves of the year?
I think Money Williams at Montana has got to be the winner on the men's side. Them bringing him off the bench has unlocked everything. That's the moment they did that is the moment they started this 8-game winning streak, and that's what's been the thing that's propelled them into first place. On the women's side, can I give it to the Montana State bench? I think like the entire Montana State bench, Addison Harris, Taylor Churick, Taylor Jansen, Natalie Picton. I mean, they all have had such a huge impact, and it's been really, really impressive to watch.
Well, Colter, thank you so much for these predictions. Some of them I feel were kind of bold. I absolutely love it. We will revisit this together in Boise and see how well you do. And if you want to hear more of Colter's analysis on Big Sky basketball, tune into Around the Big Sky Women's Hoops, 4 p.m. Wednesdays Mountain Time, and Around the Big Sky Men's Hoops, Thursdays, 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Everything on Skyline Sports. Colter, appreciate you being with me for the last 5 weeks talking Big Sky Hoops.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
And thank you all for joining me this last month for This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Once again, I'm Megan Robinson. I will see you all in Boise. For all the latest Big Sky content, subscribe to our YouTube channel.